Hey everyone, welcome back to another one of my videos. Thank you so much for everyone who has liked, shared, subscribed. I have 20 subscribers now, yay! Just after what, a month, 6 weeks, 5 weeks, something like that. I don't know, I lost count. Anyways, thank you so much for everyone who has joined me here to listen to my videos. I'm recording in a different space today just so that you guys know I leave the house. Today, I would like to talk about why Shira still is, but was my childhood role model growing up. So if you have your favorite childhood role model, go ahead and leave a comment below of who was it and why, because um, each one of us is impacted in a very different way by our childhood experiences. And so, just as many of you saw, I had my Dark Night of the Soul video that I had came out with. And, during that time, you do a lot of reflection. You do reflection over your entire life. And in order to, how do you best move forward, or how do you kind of shape your life moving forward? You kind of leave everything behind that you knew and were before, and then you become a new version of yourself, okay, like an evolved version of yourself. And so in that time, I was kind of doing a reflection on my childhood, and it kind of came out that, Shira was one that had the greatest impact on me. And so why was Shira my favorite out of all of them? It's because growing up, I didn't have any female role models. I didn't have, I had, my experience was a very male dominated experience in a very male dominated society. Growing up in the 80s, it was, still males were status quo. And so in my family, girls may not have graduated high school because they would have had children before. They would have graduated high school, and then they would have ended up marrying their high school sweetheart or the father of a child. In some cases, not in my family, just kind of like common law husbands. They would get together after high school, and then that was just kind of that. Except none of the females in my family really ever aspired to go to college or to kind of do anything more. So it was kind of during that time when a woman's space was in the house, barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. That's where I kind of grew up. And so, for me, as I've said before, I've had lots of non-examples of how to be. I never had an example of what to be. And so Sheila kind of gave me that outlet, and Sheila kind of helped me to see that there was another way to be. And she really resonated with who I was. Just, as like an aqua sun, there were so many things about Shira that I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to be when I grow up, but it's something like that. It's something like that. And so, my hair is short now, but I had really, really long hair before. Up until I was 20, I had really long hair. Now it's not so practical to have long hair for me in my life, but there are still some things about Shira that still inspire me to this day. And so I wanted to share all of that with you. And so, and I have my notes here so that I don't forget anything, because all of these things are really important. And so the very first thing was that Shira had no male assistants. Shira was not the damsel in distress. She was not the princess in the castle waiting for the man to come and save her, as was a predominant narrative in my life at that time. It was, the woman stays home and the husband goes out and he works, and then the woman then utilizes the husband's money to buy groceries, or like in some cases just whatever, shopping sprees or whatever. Never really had a sense of having something for yourself. And so Shira was one of those again, the example in my life of what a woman could accomplish without a man being around, what was even possible, right? And then the second thing was that Shira was an amazing problem solver. So she was intelligent because, again, in my world in the 80s, women were kind of, a subspecies of men. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. That's how it was. It was women have their place in society and it's second to men. And, and again, in that very male dominated era in the 80s, it really was difficult to see not only myself as, a woman or a girl that could kind of break those barriers. I do have a value series coming out where I'll talk about all of the societal kind of obstructions that I've been able to overcome and how I was able to overcome that. So it's a series of videos. So I hope that you guys come back for that. Um, but Shira was able to use her intelligence to problem solve a lot of different situations and scenarios. And a lot of times it was kind of like she was in a hopeless situation, and then all of a sudden the inspiration or the ideas came to her, and then she was able to solve the problem and then, you know, move through the episode. She was always able to overcome whatever obstacle was in her way, whatever she faced. And so that was something that I had also aspired, because I faced a lot of challenges in my life in my childhood, right? And so I was always, looking for that creative way. And I think that, that's maybe one thing that I really got from that, was that whenever all seems lost or all seems hopeless, just think about the most crazy out of the box solution and try that, because it works like most of the time. The next thing is, Shira always stood for truth. She was always using her power to stand for truth and to stand for people that were less advantaged, fighting the forces of evil, and with a smile on her face at the end of the day. And so she always stood for that truthfulness, which again, being a child of the 80s, that was definitely something that was lacking in my world, where you would see a lot of adults that would tell lies, right? Or you would see different instances play out in life where you would see people for who they are or who they were, and that was not always a truthful representation. Geez. And so that's actually one reason why Superman is my favorite. It kind of ties into my last point, is that She-Ra always stayed authentic to who she was, just the same way that Clark Kent, he stays true to his values. He stays true to who he is, even whenever he's Superman. And so whenever She-Ra is Adora, she still embodies that same sense of truth and justice and standing for what is right as Adora as she does She-Ra, which there are many superheroes, or there are many characters. I'm just going to say it. I know that there are a lot of Batman fans out there, but Batman is a raging narcissist and has a lot of psychological issues, a lot of mental health issues that he needs to work out. And so, Batman, whenever he's Bruce Wayne, he appears as someone very different than Batman, who then is like, Bruce Wayne's already pretty dark, but then Batman is even like a darker side of Bruce Wayne's personality, right? And so for me, it's like Superman and She-Ra, they more or less stand for the light and what is like the way that light can be expressed in throughout all of who you are, right? She could heal herself. So one of the, as you know, like I did the long COVID video. And so, as many of you know, I've been on a really long, extensive healing journey, not just with COVID, but being sick my entire life. And so, what has my journey to wellness looked like? And so to me, I kind of feel like I heal myself because I have to do a lot of research to try to figure out, okay, what's going to work with what's going on with my body now. What plants do I need to utilize? Because I'm not really big on pharmaceuticals. They're necessary when they're necessary, but for the most part, plant medicine works for me just fine. So that's what I utilize. One of the major things is that she was able to work independently, but also as a team. And that was one big thing because that's how I am too. I can work in a team really great, and I can also work independently. And of course, super strength. Like, who doesn't want to have super strength? And a unicorn. Like, what 5, 6-year-old girl doesn't want to have a unicorn that goes around and fights for truth and justice? Like, that was me. Sign me up 100%. And then the very last thing is that she was fighting to make change. She was a leader of freedom fighters. So she was the leader of a revolutionary movement. And so that was one of the things, again, that I really was drawn to about her, was just the fact that she really, again, how do you stand for truth or justice? And then how do you rise to a leadership position within those values of whatever it is that you believe? And so that was another thing that was really big for me, because again, being an Aquarius sun, the rebellious person, always going against the grain, always, challenging status quo, always shocking people with what I have to say or what I do, and then not caring about it to some extent. Again, those were all things that I really gravitated towards in that cartoon. And I do want to say this. I heard that there was a spinoff, and I hope it did not ruin my childhood. I will not watch it because I don't want it to be horrible. I'm just that kind of person that anything that I really loved during my childhood, I won't watch a remake of, just because it was just awful. Like other things that I have watched have been horrible. So, as we move through this journey of transformation, so some of you have gone through the spiritual warriors course that I have built, or you have purchased the Kindle version of that course. As you move through your own spiritual journey, as you move through your own evolutionary journey, you're going to be faced with times you're going to reflect back on certain parts of your life. And then you're going to have to determine, are those things that you're reflecting on, are they a part of what you're going to continue to carry with you as you move forward? Or is this something that you need to heal? And so, again, as part of the transformational process, or as you move through the process, it really is going to pull up a lot of things that are going to cause you to take pause and say to yourself, okay, I really need to take a deeper look at this. What is the fact that this bringing up? What is it telling me at this point in my life? And so at this point in my life, what that says to me is that, especially, now that I have this kind of clean slate with which to work with, again, how am I going to remake myself, or how am I going to make myself anew in these incredibly challenging times? Because right now we all have the opportunity to make incredible, extraordinary changes. Sometimes those changes force us, like me, to go through a dark night of the soul. If you don't know what that is, please make sure that you do your research, because it is a lot more than just an incredibly deep depression. That's a part of it. That's the feeling of hopelessness and despair is a normal part, but that's not the entire part of that journey, nor is that its intent from a spiritual lens. And so, those qualities that I really resonated with in Shira, those qualities are all qualities that I have really started to embody more within myself, which is why I think that they're coming up now, is because those things are being reflected to me that, like, look, even whenever you were a little girl, these are all things that are coming back. And it's like, that's who you wanted to be, but it's who you were the entire time. That's who you are now. And it was just a reminder of, look at how far you've come since those days of, you know, all of that male dominated, you can't be a woman unless you have a man around, or men doing things for you, and in our society these days, that's not how it is. It's a lot of women are doing for themselves, especially other single moms that are out there that are they're doing their thing, and so as we continue to move through, especially the next 7 years, take the time whenever these kinds of thoughts pop up into your head and really reflect on what it's telling you. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you are finding the information that I have in my courses and my books incredibly helpful. I hope that you find these videos helpful. And if you have ideas or for content, or if you just want to ask a question about anything that that I have covered so far, then go ahead and leave a comment, and I'll see them. I do read all of the comments. So thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video.
Hi. If you like the content that I create, please do make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. And check out my website, naturallyinspiredmedia.com, and some of the other videos that I have produced here.